G'day, we're here for another session of Ales and Tales, and we've seen Jeff Bezos go into space, we've seen Richard Branson go into space, but if I'm going to go into space, I want to make sure we got some beer up there. We can brew some really good beer. So today we're partnering with SuperSky Engineering, and we're going to go and find out if there's some yeast in space. Let's go. Freewheelers is this great beer series that BentSpoke does. It's all about collaborating with community partnerships. It's all about creating really interesting beers. And today we're collaborating with SuperSky Engineering. Jamie here. How did you go about setting up an aerospace company?
Well, it's not that difficult. I've got a background in science and engineering. I've always been on that interface, and for me, the ease of access to near space conditions with balloons is just begging for more applications. So we set up in Canberra. We're a service provider for the science community, for industry, defence, commercial, whatever. But this is a special one, and it's close to my heart because I'm a home brewer as well.
And look, we've got a grant as part of National Science Week to do this. How did you go about getting that?
Yeah, we've got to thank and Inspire ACT for their National Science Week grant. They gave us some money to try this crazy idea. We're going to try and trap yeast at the edge of space, and what this means is that the public can really experience this, the whole process of doing the experiment, and then hopefully we'll get a beer out of it as well, and they can taste that.
And Dan, quality manager at BentSpoke, you've had an interesting career with beer as well before BentSpoke?
Yeah, so my background's in science. I worked as an archaeologist and as a coffee roaster for many years, but I've always been involved in brewing, and again, a home brewer, and now working professionally in a brewery. And my role at BentSpoke is to continually find ways to improve the quality of our beers, and as part of that role, looking after the yeast. Yeast husbandry is really crucial.
And so Dan, tell us how we're going to get the yeast and how we're going to then get it to a point where we can brew a beer with it.
Well, underneath each of these traps is an agar plate. Agar is like a gel with malt extract in it, and it's kind of sticky and wet. And so when the trap's open, yeast should hopefully land on it, stick on it. The traps will close, and then when we get back down to earth, we'll take it to the lab and see if it'll grow and culture up over the next few days. And then from 1 or 2 cells of yeast, we need to get it all the way up to enough yeast to make 1,200 litres of beer or something.
Sounds great. All right, well, let's go and launch the balloon, and get some yeast.
Cool. Cheers.
Alright, so the balloon has burst exactly as it should have. It got to just over 30,000 meters, which is perfect. And so we're racing to get to the point where we think it'll land. The parachute's opened, which is always good. And yeah, it won't be too long before we recover our payload and see how everything went.
All right, we find ourselves in this national park. The balloon has landed. It's 15 metres up a tree. Jamie, what are we doing?
We're not getting it down today.
Sounds like a good plan. Looks like we're going to have to go and find a professional to climb this tree. So we're going to go and do that, and we'll come back tomorrow. So we've recovered the payload that went out to space. We've now got our yeast. We're now going to go back and culture this yeast up and brew some beer. What have we got, mate?
Looks like we've got some yeast.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, 2 billion cells by the looks of it.
2 billion cells? In this one?
Yep.
All right, let's go and brew some beer.
Let's do it.
Wow, that's got some really interesting flavours. The yeast has really contributed to this beer. It's got some really nice, funky sort of tart characters. Dan, what are you getting in this beer?
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. It's a very different yeast.
tastes amazing. Everyone should be super excited about the launch of this one.
Cheers, guys. Cheers.